All right, so let's welcome.
Just test.
It's not working?
I'm not sure if it's working.
Yeah. Just a moment. Try it.
Test. Yeah, now it's working.
All right, let's welcome BURCKHARDT EMONS.
Thanks a million. So, my name is BURCKHARDT from Thycotic. I'm the responsible sales engineer here for DACH, Baltic region, and some others. And I'm happy to talk today here about the privileged account management and endpoint control, because this is nowadays a real threat into this security area to get here the privileged accounts saved and automatically managed, of course. It's just for a few numbers here to see why it's so important. It's, of course, here 60% of all the breaches involve privileged accounts, as it is the easiest target here to get into an infrastructure here to really get down to the network, to get the valuable information. And as you can see, it needs to be an automatic process, because the last number here, that's the scary one. Scary one in terms of timeline. If you can think about more or less more than a half a year, so an incident, an attack gets undetected. So the attacker has the possibility to get here down to this information you are going to do, collect over time. So you can imagine how important it is to manage here the credentials and the accounts. Just to align ourselves, because I'm sure you know everybody that knows about privileged accounts. What is it? So it's the account which lives more or less on every device, provides here the administrator's unfettered access, high privileges here to do troubleshooting, maintenance, whatever you can think about. And it's also not an individual account knowing by an individual person. It's a common account knowing by many persons. And this makes it so vulnerable that here the accounts are really known by a lot of people, and you never be sure here where you can also leave these credentials about. If you think about growing the infrastructure, how does it work? So first on the left side, we've got here a small infrastructure with a single login with elevated access just to administer here all the infrastructure. Over time, so that's not feasible any longer, so infrastructure is growing, and then we are going to split here between user and admin accounts. And here's the first pitfall about, are you really going to separate these accounts, or do you just create additional administration accounts and leave the admin rights to the user? First pitfall. But on the growing infrastructure, so now each user has a regular using login, and all of these administrations just share here single elevated access account, means we have just one administration access account here to manage all the privilege accounts. Last, if we have grown the infrastructure quite a while, now each user has a regular use login, and we have one or more active accounts here administrating the infrastructure. So how does it now look like within an organization? So it's like a user account, it's an IT administrator, which then will have privileges to get here access to domain controllers, to web servers, to databases. And these kind of infrastructure we are going to secure here with IDS systems, with firewalls, we protect our kingdom here, our database, our infrastructure, putting a perimeter, putting a fence around these systems. And only the trusted insiders here get access down to the infrastructure. The perimeter will defend our attackers here, providing us with antivirus, with viruses, with malware, where we get here to to defend here ourselves. But also attackers are not quite that dumb. So what happens when they are going to do a social engineering, doing phishing attacks and something like this? Then here the attacker itself gets a trusted insider, and he has unknown access here into the system, and then can do whatever he likes to do. Gets infiltrate here the information, can put some spyware on the attacked systems, so that he can get access to all of the kingdoms. That how it looks like would be, first of all, he gets this information, gets the attack here for the user PC, installs here a little piece of software here, getting down to this PC, getting here bypassing some security mechanism, getting somewhere a privileged account, compromises this access, and then gets access to domain controller, web server, databases, whatever, just to exfiltrate data here, just to get here the valuable information out of your network. And that's the point where Thycotic now comes into this game. So to protect here this organization for getting here infiltrated, getting here access to privileged accounts, and also here controlling what happens on the endpoint itself. So how does this will work is in the following. Securing passwords is one of the game. The other side of the coin is protecting the endpoint and controlling the access. So securing passwords, we got here our secret server. On protecting endpoints, we get our privileged management systems for Windows or for Unix. And how this look like is secret server is going to secure and automate and manage the privileged accounts. Privileged accounts going to be discovered, automatically discovered, put into a secure vault, and then from there on managing the passwords, managing the access to this. Providing also a full automation for the management means I have here now the full control over this privileged access account, whereas I can now start the session out from secret server to the target machine, and can so generate also a secret workflow on that. An interesting point of this is, consider yourself, how is the process handled when an IT admin is going to leave your company? Usually it's got eliminated on the ID account, and then we'll all hope and trust in God that he never had done any other access, done any black hole in the system where he will get access then later on. And with automation, discovery, and managing these passwords, this of course is then a simple task here, just here getting through the database with a report, seeing what this guy has got all access for unprivileged accounts, and then with one click telling secret server just to change all the passwords on these accounts these leaving admin had access to, and then you're on the safe side, because all the system, all the information now is so far secure that nobody who left the company will ever have a black hole, have ever access now to the data. Also, what is important is auditing. So secret server will capture all activities, will capture all information here, what happens with these privileged accounts, just to get here to the point that we can also be here, produce then the reports needed for compliance reasons to tell who has done what and when. And this is not only for a certain specific time, this will be over the whole lifetime for secret server from cradle to grave, so to say. It will include also alerting. Thanks for the question. It is here in the possibility to include this or to integrate this with an a SIEM system, or will also, if there's no SIEM system, be able then to send an email with an alert to a specific for a specific person, for a specific group. So auditing, reporting, alerting is one thing. Integration is the other important part. We can also integrate here with certain other security vendors. SIEM is one of the products I've just here raised by now. We have several integrations like Splunk, like ArcSight, so we can contact here any SIEM system as well. We'll have here integration with vulnerability scanners. We have integration with some HSM modules as well to keep here also the security, the encryption processing as secure as possible. So integrations is quite a huge point to consider. But that's also from privileged accounts. This is nothing so far what happens on the endpoint usually itself. Therefore, we have the other side, protecting the endpoints and controlling the access. If you have heard about ransomware like Locky and so on, you just consider how this went onto the PC, how it caused that bad damage. Was just here an attacker placed somewhere the application on the PC and let it then run from there and gets here then the whole infrastructure, all of the servers infiltrated. And why this happened is this little PC had access rights to install programs on its own. And that's the big issue. So far, there's no identification of the application, which we are going here to provide. In protecting endpoints, will first of all, security is identify the application which is trying to do something about. Then if it's a whitelisted application, then let it go. If it's a gray-listed application, get a reputation control, get approval from an administrator first. If it's a blacklisting, just stop the process at all. After identification of the application, so we'll have to evaluate now a policy, what to do with this application. So as I mentioned, reputation control, do we have to check here the reputation via VirusTotal? Is this already a known application which is dangerous? Is it a benign application? Or what else have we do? In which context has this application been started? For instance, let's take Photoshop. That's a pretty common application from Adobe. Can be downloaded more or less from every site in this world, Adobe itself or any other software repository. So from which repository does this application come from? Is it here directly downloaded from Adobe? Okay, then we can start right away. Is it downloaded from somewhere else? We should consider that this is malware and just check it first, or deny that this can be started, get a message out to the user that he just has to download now this application directly from Adobe. So that kind of policy, seeing the application in the context where it's coming from. After evaluation of this policy, we'll have then to apply an action. As I mentioned here, the policy says only to be downloaded from Adobe. The action would be now to stop this install and get a message here, download this please from Adobe first. Could be also another action that I'll first have to get here an approval from an administrator if I'm allowed to continue with this installation, and so on. So whatever you can think about of kind of actions against applications would be appropriate action. And of course here is the access workflow, like here getting the approval first from an administrator, and again monitoring and reporting, and of course here then the alerting as well. and we'll provide this here with the least privileged policy. So it's a common sense here that all these vulnerabilities we've seen in the past here could be mitigated by common sense. Just here taking the approach, who has to have privileged access rights? Is it the user who is sitting in front of the PC? Or is it the application who wants something to do or wants to harm here the infrastructure? So that's one of the points here, especially here on the privilege manager for Windows. Just elevate access rights to individual application. The user just has to work with this application. He doesn't have to have access rights on his PC in this circumstance. And of course, here on least privileged, on privileged accounts with secret server, here automatically discover and take control of local administrative accounts. As it is written here, I've just read it for you, as here take control over all these admin accounts flying around in the whole infrastructure. So to control this, to get here a secure environment, to get here secure environment, really to just here to see here to get the hackers out. And how this is done is always a phased transition. I'm pretty sure you have seen these kind of circles 1,000 times. But again, it's worth to discuss this. First of all, it's discover information, it's discover security, and protect this. Then, of course, after you have got here all the information in a protected environment, you have to do automation about this. So you have to change passwords regularly, but automated. You have to create complex passwords, long complex passwords, but you have to provide an easy access for the human being here to get down to the target system. So this means you are under control of your environment. And then, of course, use the reporting, and you can do then the adjustments wherever necessary, which gives us then back to the discovery and the protection itself. And I just want to make one comment on this ring here with the 4 points. There's always one thing to mention here on reporting and adjustment, is also educating the staff which is working here on this one regularly. Education is one of the most important here for the users on a PC here, not to forget about any kind of security. So they have to be aware of, and the technology then just can help to mitigate here the risks. And so far, just quick view about here the customers who are using privileged account management, and also here privilege management for Windows. It's just a few companies here you might still all know about. So they all rely on Thycotic. Why? We are fast to deploy. We can be installed within a couple of minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, as it is just a software-based solution sitting on a web server, using on an MS SQL database. And this means whenever you have here Windows administrators capable to install, administrator, manage your Windows servers, they are already fully trained to get here the secret server solution, the privilege management for Windows solution installed. Because if you have the foundation, it's just a click on the MSI starter button and then the system gets installed automatically. Means it is within 15-20 minutes here ready to work. It's easy to use. It is intuitive web interface where you just have to configure here your needed information. What are the users? What rights, what permissions do these users or groups have? And then up they go. The rest is automated. Click on the start discovery, and then the system goes out for you, connects to Active Directory, finds all the associated computers, and gets in the local admin accounts, the Windows services, etc. Not only for Windows, by the way, also if you provide here the IP address range, it will find other information as well, like for firewalls, like Linux, Unix systems, like whatever is in the infrastructure. Okay, with this, I'm now open for questions. I'm 5 minutes. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to take.
And we are giving out the invitation for outer party for the best question. I think
that would be a great idea. Yeah.
I guess you can choose the best question that you like most.
I'll never choose the best question because always good questions. They're always valid questions. But if I have to choose, I'll leave it to you.
All right.
Great.
All right. We'll see.
So, are there any questions?
I have a question, for example, for Unix, for Linux systems.
Yes.
We usually for a connection we can use the passwords, but also the certificates.
Yes.
Do you manage certificates also?
We'll also manage certificates. We are also going to rotate them frequently. So, and this is what I'm now here sorry for this. That was just here my reminder for come here. That was my reminder here to be on time. Yes, we manage them, and we can also rotate the certificates as well, because this is also the automation process then, when it comes down here to certificates here, they need to be changed.
Expired
Yeah.
certificates, and you
Yeah.
can imagine.
We can manage them. We are going to change them, and we will rotate them, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yes.
What is the load on the system of this software, like, from performance perspective?
Depends, I have to say. The load is quite minimal on the web server, as it works like any other web services with using application pools. If it comes down to the infrastructure, then there's the matter of your configuration, how often you are going to change password, how often you're going to start discovery processes. So in terms of load, I would say from 0.1 to 5% in the infrastructure, because it depends on your configuration, on your environment.
Does your solution work with services too? For example, if you change password for a SQL Server engine, can it change for the service and then restart it by itself?
Yes,
so
indeed. That's also the path of automation, because it's nothing worse than just leaving one service out and getting here the whole infrastructure collapsed. Because therefore on the service accounts there are also all these services bound, which then gets automatically stopped, changed, restarted.
Does it test it after it's completed?
It's tested. It is tested here after it's completed. So, and the only manual intervention you have here is during the configuration phase of services, because you might have a human logic behind the enumeration of services, and this is what a system can't really think about. Therefore, you have to sort the services in the right order you have already created once ago. Okay.
There could be many services running on servers.
Yeah.
Not only a SQL Server or something like that.
It
Could be many other customized or something.
It could be Windows services. We are talking about Windows services. Can be SQL services. Can be other services. All these services associated to a service account will be discovered.
Okay, so non-integrated things will not work, like custom source control server, for example, for development?
No,
etc.?
no, I fear this is not in the focus of the system.
Okay, so only known systems you are
It's
covered.
the
and-
known, it's known Windows services then, yes.
Mhm, okay.
So when you say custom services, if they are bound to a service account, then yes, they will discover it. If they are completely out of the box, still running alone, then we don't have a chance to discover it.
But what about writing custom plugins for these, or sort of intelligent things on how to run, maybe command line, command, etc. So all these can be learned. That's an idea for future innovation, by the way.
That should be then here also discussed here with our technology. So, because they might have been already here some scripting to discover this. Because what I've just here briefly mentioned in favor of time is the scripting part. There's a huge scripting capabilities on discovery, which then you can also be able to use here, these kind of discovery as you described it. Oops, we are fast. We have just one last question from the guy.
The last question. As we know, the Windows released the new server, the 2016, and did you have any movements in this? Do you supporting new server?
Yes.
And as we know, Windows Server have role-based access control and many services for this purposes built in the server. Do you have collaborated, or you have absolutely your own role management in your software?
We'll have our own role management, but of course we can be integrated with Active Directory. So it means the role you have in Active Directory, then you can make use of it. And yes, we are going to support also the Windows 2016 part. Server. So the system itself can start from 2008 upwards, depending on capabilities, of course. But we are also supporting here Windows 2016, as we are coming here from the Microsoft environment here, and we are heavily relying on Microsoft infrastructure as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Now I have to choose, huh?
Do you have choose?
Or have you chosen? You haven't chosen?
Do you have your favorite question, maybe?
I have heard the questions, yes, and I've heard good questions. And it is really hard, but I would say give it to the gentleman. He had 2 questions.
All right.
He could consider about this.
It's for you.
Okay, thanks a million for your patience, for your attendance. And if you would like to discuss a step further, I'm here with my colleagues here from the Baltics here on the booth. So I'm happy to talk afterwards. Thanks a million. Thanks a million. It's really nice.
Yeah.
I think, but you want to have something from me as well. You want to have something from me.
All right, we'll start next talk in a couple of minutes.